Often in pop culture and media, the guillotine is presented as one of the worst ways to go. The device that was used to end over 17,000 people during the French Revolution and after has been a matter of fascination for many over the years, especially how the guillotine became synonymous with rebellious ideas. But what do we really know about the guillotine? Why was it such a spectacle? And why did they use it to execute people? Its origins date back to the Middle Ages. It wasn't until the French Revolution in the 1790s that the term guillotine was coined, but comparable execution machines had been around for centuries prior to that. In Germany and Flanders throughout the Middle Ages, a weapon known as the plank was used to behead individuals. Additionally, the English possessed a sliding axe known as the Halifax gibbet, which may have been used to behead individuals as far back as antiquity. It is quite probable that the French guillotine was influenced by two earlier machines, the manea from Italy, which was used throughout the Renaissance period, and the dreaded Scottish maiden, which was responsible for the deaths of approximately 120 individuals between the 16th and 18th centuries. Additionally, there is evidence to suggest that primitive guillotines may have been in use in France for a considerable amount of time prior to the time of the French Revolution. It began as a more merciful execution method. In the latter half of the year 1789, Dr. Joseph-Ignace Guillotine made a suggestion to the French government that they create a more humane means of death. This was the beginning of the French guillotine. Despite the fact that Guillotine was personally opposed to the use of the death penalty, he believed that beheadings carried out by a lightning-fast machine would be more humane and egalitarian than beheadings carried out by sword and axe, which were frequently carried out incorrectly. After some time, he was involved in the supervision of the development of the first prototype, which was an impressive machine that was conceived by a French physician named Antoine Louis and constructed by a German harpsichord manufacturer named Tobias Schmidt. In April of 1792, the contraption was responsible for the death of its first official victim. It immediately became known as the guillotine, much to the dismay of the person who was believed to have invented it. During the guillotine mania that occurred in the 1790s, Guillotine made an effort to disassociate himself from the machine. Subsequently, his family attempted to ask the French government to alter the name of the machine before the early 19th century, but they were unsuccessful. Guillotine executions were major spectator events. In the middle of the 1790s, during the Reign of Terror, thousands of people who were considered to be enemies of the French Revolution were put to death by the blade of the guillotine. Initially, there were some members of the public who voiced their displeasure with the machine, stating that it was too rapid and clinical. However, before long, the process had developed into a really entertaining activity. A large number of people traveled to the Place de la Révolution in order to witness the guillotine carrying out its gruesome task. Additionally, the machine was celebrated in a great number of songs, jokes, and poetry. Some of the activities that spectators might participate in included purchasing mementos, reading a program that listed the names of the victims, or even grabbing a bite to eat at a neighboring restaurant called Cabaret de la Guillotine. Some others were present on a daily basis, the most well-known of whom were the tricoteuses, a group of vengeful ladies who were said to have knitted while sitting next to the scaffolding in between the executions of the beheadings. Even those who were sentenced were included in the theater. Before being put to death, a great number of individuals communicated their defiance through caustic quips or defiant final remarks, and some danced their way up the steps of the scaffolding. At the conclusion of the 18th century, there was a decline in the degree of fascination with the guillotine, yet public beheadings remained in France until 1939. It was a popular children's toy. Children frequently witnessed executions carried out by guillotine, and it is possible that some of them even played with their very own miniature guillotines at home. A duplicate blade and timbers that stood 2 feet tall was a popular toy in France during the 1790s. The fully functional guillotines were used by children to behead dolls or even tiny mice, and as a result, several municipalities eventually outlawed them out of worry that they were a destructive influence. Novelty guillotines even made their way into the dinner tables of certain upper-class families, where they were utilized as slicers for both bread and vegetables. Guillotine operators were national celebrities. The reputations of those who operated the guillotine increased in tandem with the guillotine's growing popularity. When executioners were closely judged during the French Revolution on how swiftly and exactly they could execute several beheadings, they gained a great degree of notoriety. This was one of the reasons why they became so famous. Most of the time, the job was a family enterprise. Between the years 1792 and 1847, many generations of the illustrious Sanson family served as state executioners. They were responsible for the execution of thousands of people, including King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, amongst others. Louis and Anatole Diebler, a father and son team, were the individuals who held the position of chief headsman during the 19th and 20th centuries. Their total tenure spanned from 1879 until 1939. People frequently screamed the names of the Sansons and the Dieblers in the streets, and it was well known that the clothes that they wore while they were on the scaffolding was known to create design trends. In addition, those who carried out executions were a subject of morbid interest in the criminal black market. It has been reported that members of the criminal underworld, including gangsters and other hoods, would receive tattoos that bore ominous inscriptions such as, "My head goes to Diebler." Scientists studied condemned heads gruesomely. From the very beginning of its application, there was a great deal of conjecture regarding whether or not the heads of those who were executed by guillotine remained aware after being severed. In 1793, the controversy reached new heights when an assistant executioner smacked the face of one of his victims' heads, and witnesses claimed to see the victim's cheeks flush in fury. This event caused the argument to explode. After the execution, the doctors ordered the condemned to demonstrate that they were still able to move by blinking or leaving one eye open. Other people yelled the name of the deceased person or exposed their heads to candle flames and ammonia to see if they would react. A physician by the name of Daci de Lignieres even had blood pumped into the head of a juvenile murderer who had been executed by guillotine in the year 1880 in order to determine whether or not the head would come back to life and talk. In the 20th century, the horrifying trials were put to an end. However, further research on rats has revealed that brain activity may continue for approximately 4 seconds after the decapitation of the animal. It was used for executions in Nazi Germany. The guillotine is most commonly linked with the revolutionary movement in France. However, it is possible that it was responsible for the deaths of an equal number of people in Germany under the Third Reich. At the beginning of the 1930s, Adolf Hitler proclaimed the guillotine a state-approved means of death. He also gave the order for 20 of these devices to be installed in various towns around Germany. The guillotine was finally used to murder around 16,500 people between the years 1933 and 1945, according to data kept by the Nazi regime. The majority of those who were executed were political dissidents and resistance fighters. We hope you liked this video, subscribe to the channel if you're a history addict, and please let us know about what civilization or time period we should talk about. Also, watch another video here.